I want to jump to this next story with you guys. Now, this is the Rotten Tomatoes for Am I Racist?, The Daily Wire, and Matt Walsh's new film. Now, I've talked about this quite a bit because it's no secret. I'm a huge fan of this film. I am so impressed with how they pulled this off. This story, and I'm really interested in bringing you guys in the conversation because, I want to hear some other people's opinions about it. Have you guys have not seen the film yet?
Not yet.
No.
Take a look at this. So if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, which is, movie reviews, right? You can see that it's got over 1,000 verified ratings, 99% hot. The tomato meter, however, is gray. There's nothing there. Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire had a funny post where they said certified gray. Here's what gets crazy. When you look at the critics' reviews, it says there are 0. When you click it, you can see there are 8. I believe there could be more. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are now 9 reviews. There are 9 reviews, only one's bad, and Jesse Gender, it's no surprise this person does not like Matt Walsh, but that's besides the point. When you go to the front page of Rotten Tomatoes and scroll down at all their movies and take a look at the box office top 10, look at this. God's Not Dead, which is a religious film, gray. Am I Racist? Gray. Reagan, The Killer's Game, It Ends With Us, they're reviewed bad. These other movies have gotten reviews. Hollywood will not go near this movie. The reviewers won't go near reviewing this movie. There is a media blacklist on this film. Am I Racist? Joe Rogan, on his show that just released today with Matt Walsh, said it was one of the funniest comedies he has seen in a very long time. I think, the reason I want to bring this up, we are winning the culture war. This is proof. Look at Beetlejuice. Now, have you guys seen Beetlejuice?
No.
I thought it was okay. I was like, it was like 5 stories jammed into one. I'm like, it's whatever. It's fun nostalgia to watch Beetlejuice come back. I think they made a big mistake with Lydia. In the first movie, Lydia is not scared of ghosts, and she's like, I am strange and unusual. In Beetlejuice, she's like, I'm so terrified that Beetlejuice might come back. And I'm like, why? She has PTSD. She's taking pills. It's stupid. But So made a good point. They have a disgusting pregnancy joke. It's not politically correct. There's no wokeness. Lydia's not a girl boss. And I watched one review where they said, I love this film because it's nostalgia bait and there's no politics in it. They did not try to make it feminist or do any of this weird garbage. They literally had Beetlejuice be a disgusting pervert like he always was, the way movies were supposed to be. And I'm like, that movie is certified fresh. Everybody seemed to love it. It's got great reviews and ratings. I think we're winning.
And I guess the depressed pill addiction is kind of like representative of modern culture in a way. So maybe, as sad as it is to see Lydia go down that path, hopefully she kicks the pill addiction by the end of the movie. I haven't seen it. I don't want to spoil it either. Hey, for reference...
Have you seen it?
No. I don't know if I will either. For reference, Rotten Tomatoes is owned by Warner Brothers and NBC Universal.
But it's not so... So, first of all, I would say this is absolutely Rotten Tomatoes. And that's evidenced by the fact that there are critics' reviews. They overwhelmingly rate it fresh. And they're still like, but we're not going to certify it. But then it's also, Matt Walsh posted this on his X account when the Daily Wire's PR reached out to a bunch of different publications and entertainment websites saying, here's an advanced screener for the film. They either lied, saying they never got one, or they emailed back, ha, 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 F you, no way, not going to do it. They did that to us when we released our music. We had a press release saying, Tim Pool and Pete Prada release Only Ever Wanted. And many of these outlets wrote back saying, F you, MAGA chuds, blah, 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 blah.
I'm going to say the same thing I said with Trump and the Teamsters earlier. I think the non-endorsement's the endorsement. Like, I don't care about these institutions at all. I don't care about iTunes. Well, no. I don't care about like Netflix,
Look,
Rotten Tomatoes.
Reagan's 17%. They're saying it's bad. If it was bad, they'd say it was bad.
Just reject these places.
General question about Beetlejuice. Yeah. Is it worth seeing?
I give it a C+.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like if you got time and you want to go see a movie on the weekends, it's it's fun. It is fun to watch them go in the underworld.
What would you give Beetlejuice, the first one?
Oh, A+, dude.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie.
The original Beetlejuice is a masterpiece.
It really
What would you give the musical?
I haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it. Is
it
it
good?
live?
No, I haven't seen it.
There's a musical?
Yeah.
I mean, the original
Infamous
Beetlejuice
musical.
is... I mean, let's go back to the 80s, right? The movie is ridiculous. It's... There's a ghost that you say his name 3 times, and he comes to you, and he's a bioexorcist who gets rid of people for ghosts. It was a funny idea. Tim Burns like, what if ghosts haunting a house want to get rid of the people who move in? That's fun and funny, and Beetlejuice is a perverted, disgusting, lecher. And it's masterfully done. Modern movies don't have any of this interesting, unique IP. It's like they're making so they made a new kids film, the Transformers 1 or whatever, and it's just generic as it could possibly be. It's all the same boring garbage. So what I will say of Am I Racist? You know why it's great? I bet the critics did watch it and they laughed. And they laughed and they said, I can't write this up. Because who are you convincing by saying it's bad?
I wonder if any are self-aware enough to say that they see themselves in it, as the quote-unquote villain of the movie.
But the issue is there's no villains in the movie. There's no preaching. It's just a comedy film. There's a Matt Walsh fight scene.
Is there not characters that are preaching certain type of agendas that you look at as a
They never
caricature?
say it's bad.
But you as an audience see it as a bad thing? Or like is it portrayed? And maybe they don't portray it as a bad thing, but when you hear it that it's bad.
I think it's I would say 50-50.
Yeah.
So it's more of the absurdity where like one woman says, we need to talk to our kids about racism. And Matt Walsh says, I have a 6-month-old daughter. Is that too soon? And she's like, no. And it's just like, right. It's
absurd.
Yeah. It's just, you're like, what? Like what? And then, I mean, I don't want to spoil too much. There's a lot in there, so I'm not spoiling a lot. But when the woman says that she's upset because her daughter gravitates toward white Disney princesses, and she has to let her know about like white supremacy, and then Matt goes, well, my white daughter likes Moana. And so it's a problem when she wants to dress like a brown or black princess. But then I don't want her to dress like a white one because then it's white supremacy. And he's not saying she's wrong.
Right.
He's actually talking to her, but you're sitting there laughing your ass off because there's no answer to these things.
Right.
So in a sense, I think it's fair to say they are painted bad because they make so much money, and it keeps showing you how much money they get to do these things, but you're laughing at it.
I think another reason I don't like it is probably because it's the inverse of a Sacha Baron Cohen movie, whereas his movies would have targeted people that these critics typically don't like politically for some reasons, or a Bruno, Borat stuff.
Yep.
But this is the flip. So it's attacking them to some degree.
And especially as we're so close to the election, there was a really funny article in The Hollywood Reporter last week. I guess there's a new documentary out on Adam Kinzinger. And the headline of it was like, this Kinzinger documentary could sway the election. I kid you not. And they do this like glowing profile on it. I don't even know where it's airing. But it shows you they're so out of touch. Like you nailed it with the Teamsters Union being so disconnected, disjointed from the pulse of the American people. But
They hate us.
shout out to Matt Walsh.
I get so bored. I'm glad this movie's doing well, and I'm glad he wore a wig that seems fake, but it's still like that kind of person might wear a fake wig. So
It gets longer.
that's so awesome. I kind of make my own. I've been playing a lot of video games, and now I've been streaming them and telling the story of the characters in the game as the game's progressing. It's like I'm creating my own art because I haven't found any good movies to get lost in the last, I don't know.
We were talking
7 or 8 years.
I think it might have been like
Mad Max Fury Road.
I think it might have been Rogan, but someone was talking about how we haven't actually had a comedy in a long time. When was the last time you saw a comedy film? Like, honest question. I'm not saying we haven't. I'm not saying they don't exist. I genuinely am curious. When was the last time you watched like a real comedy?
Like in the theaters?
Yeah, like it was a big movie. Remember in the 2000s we had Anchorman, we had Step Brothers, those Will Ferrell movies. We had what else did we have?
Bunch of Sandler movies.
Zoolander.
Stiller movies. Yeah.
I mean, it was all
Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder, man. When Tom Cruise is singing that Apple Bottom Jeans song, I'm laughing my ass off the whole time.
I mean, Robert Downey Jr. in blackface.
Dude,
it's incredible.
I love in Tropic Thunder when he's on the phone with the Vietnamese guys and the agent is screaming at him.
Yeah.
Dude, that movie was classic. And now young people are finding Robert Downey Jr. in blackface and they're like, what? They don't understand that was the point of the movie to criticize.
Yeah.
So we had this whole era where there was just comedy after comedy after comedy coming out. Honest question though, like, when was the last time you guys seen it? If you guys are in chat,
I think they destroyed comedy. I mean, there was one maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I did like Chris Rock's movie, but that's not even a real comedy. Well, it was a good movie.
Or
No
even like
one really watched it.
the stand-up specials that they have nowadays on Netflix are literally so atrocious. And I feel like they've always feared laughter, right? Mocking sort of the elite class, and I think that's why comedy is such sort of a touchy kind of
Why
exposed.
so much of it is on YouTube now. They can't go to a lot of these places.
Yeah.
So I guess the general idea was that you need to be offensive in comedy. Like comedy needs to broach the edges of what is acceptable to make people shocked or laugh.
It doesn't need to, but it certainly can It's like one of the only art forms that can.
I think it's probably the most effective weapon. I know there's a bit of a distinction between just like lying about what your belief is on something, and I think it's the idea preference falsification. I think that's something I remember for like 2016. I think it was a scholar like Timur Karan had written this long book about how, like, you know, before the Berlin Wall fell, everyone was like, oh, this is so great, and then once it fell, they're like, actually, we hated this the whole entire time, right? And it's like sort of using your position on a certain issue to sort of reflect your social standing, or that you're a member in a good social class, and you're not going or bumping up against the regime. And in some ways, I think the fact that they're not endorsing this does show that there still is, to some extent, a vestige of that preference falsification. But I also think that that's why humor is such a powerful tool, right? Because you can mock these institutions, these people. I think legacy is something that is so important to like the Anthony Fauci's of the world, the Francis Collins of the world, even the Victoria Nuland types. And just the fact that like you can drag them. And I think comedy is a conduit, is a vessel that is much more conducive to, I think, the mockery that these people, believe me, are long overdue and deserve. But I think it just lands better. It's more palatable for the general populace than it is sitting people down, reading through a 300-page report that Congress puts out about how DEI programs are bad for the country. It's about messaging. And I think the right is usually really bad at messaging, right? And I think that when we can package something, and I would say this is like one of the first movies where I'm actually like proud to be on the side of it, right? It's not like as cringe as sometimes kind of right-wing culture stuff can be. I think they don't want to let it in because it's a.
I just went to now in theaters and new, and I'm not sure there's any comedies.
Guess we need to make one. I'm shooting one at the beginning of October.
I think some of them might be like passive comedies, but not overt comedy. Like there might be a comedy as a subcategory of the film, like it is kind of funny. But, I mean, they got Blazing Saddles in here.
That was the only R-rated movie I was allowed to watch as a kid.
Great movie.
Oh, here you go. Am I racist? Look, the Matt Walsh fight scene will have you in pain. It's so good.
Borat, I cried at the theater so much. So many tears of laughter at that movie. That's like maybe the funniest movie I ever saw.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and I didn't like want to say that about it. I just laughed for so much of that movie because of the confusion of the people around him and the commitment to the character. It was incredible.
I grew up loving Andy Kaufman, so seeing what Sacha Baron Cohen is doing is great, and it's very sad to see that he's been also brainwashed by people. He was years ago talking about misinformation on the internet. Pretty sad.
Okay, all right. Beetlejuice is a comedy, but I don't think it's not. It's a subcategory comedy. What genre would you describe Beetlejuice as?
I thought it was like a
horror comedy. Horror comedy.
Yeah.
It's not really scary in
It's
any
definitely
way,
funny.
though.
Comedy horror, yeah.
Comedy horror? More like a
Not
subcategory?
Scary. There's a few like scary, like the guy with the shrunken head. If you're a kid and you saw that, you'd be like, ah.
These are the comedies that they say are now in theaters. Blazing Saddles, of course, is a comedy.
Hilarious.
That's a re-release, a very old movie. My Old Ass. I mean, I guess
Is that about a donkey?
it's just two women looking at each other, I guess. I don't know.
If it was about a donkey, I might laugh.
Zombie Wedding, that looks like a comedy.
I'm shooting a short film at the end of the month, so it's going to be extreme. I read the script, and it's hilarious. I'm just visualizing. As an actor, you go and you visualize the shoot over and over and over. Like, I see so many aspects of how it's going to be, and then when you do it, it just happens because you're already prepared.
Ant-Man was subcategory comedy with Paul Rudd. Because Paul Rudd's a genius. He's fantastic. The second Ant-Man or whatever is kind of weird. But the first one where he's like under house arrest and then he's like, they're doing these heists. And it's a superhero movie, but there's a lot of jokes in it and he's funny. There's comedy in that. I don't know. I'm just saying like we had that comedy era with,
Yeah.
It
ended with The
Anchorman.
Hangover, maybe.
Hangover 3.
Mike
I
Myers,
didn't
he
see
contributed a lot to that.
That was,
stuff.
yeah, he was even,
Yeah.
he predates the
the
Anchorman
90s.
stuff.
You know what bums me out is they only did 3 Austin Powers. Yeah. They could have made 800 of those movies, I swear.
Same with Wayne's World. They could have done 5 of those. Him and Garth, those two guys together, Dana Carvey and Mike Myers. They were.
Oh, they're gonna do a part 3.
Where they're 70.
Yep.
They're doing when they're 70 years old.
Yep.
That's funny.
Like they did Bill and Ted.
I just hope they don't bring the
Beetlejuice.
kids in. That's the Bill and Ted mistake. Is they brought the daughters of Bill and Ted as the main characters. Like, what the hell?
You know what's really funny is I was reading about the Beetlejuice sequel, the original, and there was going to be a couple years later. It was going to be like 1992, and they wanted to do Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii, And then nobody wanted to do it. And then this is a quote from Kevin Smith where like, will you direct it? And he's like, didn't we say everything that needed to be said in the first one? Why does he need to go somewhere tropical now?
Yeah.
And so nobody wanted to get on it. They were actually trying to do a sequel the entire time since the first one came out, and it kept getting shoved back until finally they got bored and old, I guess, and said, we'll do it now.
That was such a thing in the 90s with like giant movies that were huge. And then they had 100 VHS tapes that no one watched for over the next 10 years, like Air Bud. There's got to be like 100 of those out.
Yep.
I wasn't alive in the 90s, so
Oh, you missed. Well, that's when civilization ended. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I know. The
Sorry,
first
missed
movie
out.
I saw was Elf.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's the
I don't
last
know what the first movie I saw
movie you
was.
saw or comedy?
First movie I saw.
That's the last comedy or
The
movie?
first movie.
Oh, the
Babe.
first
I
movie
ever
was
saw.
Elf.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. First movie I saw in the theaters was American Tail or Fievel Goes West, whichever.
Bambi was one of
Fievel
my
Goes
early
West.
ones.
Yeah, great movie.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.